What's up, movie fans? We're the Hilsmaniacs, and today we're going to be giving our thoughts on the Academy Award-winning movie, The Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, so we're doing this to continue our Halloween week, which has been an entire week full of Halloween related content. So if you haven't seen any of the previous videos we've done, go back and check those out as well. So let's give our thoughts on Silence of the Lambs. This was the first time we both actually seen this movie. I've heard a lot about it over the years and everything, and I kind of wanted to check it out to see what the big deal about it was. I thought it was, I know it's billed, I don't know if it's considered a horror movie. I think it's billed more as like a psychological thriller. But it gave me the kind of it gave me the kind of like Criminal Minds vibes. If you've ever seen the show Criminal Minds, that's what this felt like. Like just this psychological, like these people are insane. Like, you got Hannibal Lecter, who's a cannibal. He's eating people, and he's in prison now. And then you got Buffalo Bill is the main antagonist of this movie, I guess. But he is like, killing these women and then taking parts of their skin. So it was kind of creepy in that aspect, not necessarily like jump scares and everything like that. It was more just like a creepy, weird thing, and I was okay with that. I mean, it kind of made it like a bit suspenseful and stuff, because we didn't really know who Buffalo Bill was at first. We didn't really see his face until closer to the end of the movie. They had this nice like swerve at one point where like the police are going to break into his house to find him because they think he's there. Meanwhile, Clarice, who's the main like detective of this,
played by Jodie Foster.
Yeah, played by Jodie Foster. She goes into someone else's house she was going to ask questions to, and here it turns out he's there instead of where. So they kind of show it like shot for shot, like the cops, the other detectives kick the door in. You think they're going to find Buffalo Bill, and then here she opens the door. She knocks on the door, and it's him. So I thought that made it like, that really tense moment. Like, well, now she's by herself. Her backup's on the other side of the state or whatever, like, going after him. So
I think the way they did this movie, because they kind of made it seem as though Hannibal was the main villain of this movie.
Yeah, that was.
But in reality, it was basically like he was helping Clarice to find Buffalo Bill, and so she was basically working with him, and then in the end he ends up escaping the prison and comes back for the sequel. But it was one of those things that it was like he's supposed to be the bad guy that like she's trying to get in the head of and figure out why he did what he did, and then here he's not even the one that she's focused on.
Right, because when people think of this movie, you think of Hannibal Lecter. Even the sequel to it was called Hannibal. Like, now it focuses more on Hannibal Lecter, I guess, or he comes back for whatever reason. We haven't seen that one either, obviously. No spoilers in the comments. Yeah. So that was kind of weird, like, because everybody associates this movie with Hannibal Lecter. When they talk about Silence of the Lambs, they also mention Hannibal Lecter. So I thought he was going to be in this a lot more than he was. He was here at the beginning because she was trying to sort of get information out of him, like see if they could get him to help them find, because I guess he was like a doctor or like a psychologist or whatever before he was arrested. Like, even though he was eating people and killing people, everything, and he was a serial killer. So they were trying to see if he could like profile Buffalo Bill and help them find him. So it was kind of weird that like he wasn't in this movie. There was a good portion of the movie where like it was just about Clarice and the other detectives and finding Buffalo Bill, where like Hannibal was barely in it, and that kind of surprised me, because just going in knowing that it's about Hannibal Lecter, and he's like. Nobody dresses up as Buffalo Bill for Halloween. They dress up as unless you're playing football.
Yeah. No, but they dress up.
They dress up as Hannibal
they
instead
put on
of
that mask that he wore literally one time in the movie.
Right.
It was when they were transporting him so that he doesn't bite anybody. But the overall thing, and it's always that one scumbag that ruins it for everybody. And
Right.
if you look at this movie, it would be I guess the warden of the prison, as he's telling Clarice the rules, and one of the main rules was like, don't give Hannibal anything sharp. And then later on in the movie, he leaves a pen in Hannibal's jail cell, and Hannibal's able to take it apart, and then ends up, escaping and
Yeah.
killing people. So really, it's because he's so ignorant and thinks that like, oh, I'm perfect and can't make a mistake, that he basically caused this to happen and ruined everything for everybody. Because now Hannibal's out in the world somewhere,
Right.
And
Yeah.
he's having an old friend for dinner, as he says at the end of the movie, and he'll probably have some fava beans and a nice Chianti with it. But
Probably.
but there's always that one, and you watch any movie, there's always one person that goes against the rules, whether it's their
Right.
own rules or not, and ends up causing something else to happen. And there's always, and I guess this is, kind of a theme here, the butterfly effect, or
Yeah.
moths in this case, where one thing happens and then something else happens because of that. That's basically what happened, not just to Hannibal, but I mean for everything, because if Clarice wouldn't have been sent to talk to Hannibal, they may have never
Exactly.
figured out who Buffalo
Buffalo
Bill was.
Bill-
I mean, and that
yeah.
was the whole point of sending her, because she was somebody new.
And that's what I liked about the movie. They did the kind of, like, if you've ever seen the show The Blacklist, it's like a
Right.
they use a criminal for help to track down other criminals, and this is kind of the same thing here. They had that whole, like, he's kind of testing Clarice to see how good at profiling she is, and he's like helping her, but at the same time he wants to also just escape and go become Odin in the Thor franchise. But Anthony Hopkins. But I did like that aspect of it, and another thing I also enjoyed was like just the way all the actors did really well in this movie, and especially I'd say even Anthony Hopkins, even though, like I said, Hannibal wasn't in this as much, but just the way his presence and him talking and everything else was like so ominous, and in his head he thinks he's like the greatest person, and he kind of was, because he outsmarted everybody like every time we saw him on screen, or he was profiling everybody that approached him and things like that. So it made him feel like really the smartest person in the whole room every time he was on screen, and that was a good performance by Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, and
I
that's why he
thought.
won Best Actor.
And even I don't know who played Buffalo Bill.
Yeah,
Do you know that? Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't really pay attention to that part, but even that performance of like this really insane, crazy person, like that was really good as well. So the acting was top notch for this movie and stuff. And I did like the suspense of it all, like will they find Buffalo Bill, but also how is Hannibal going to factor into this, because at one point he just like escapes, so you'd think maybe he's going to kill Buffalo Bill. They keep asking him if he knows who Buffalo Bill is, and like you kind of wonder, like, does he know who Buffalo Bill is?
There was a time, and he started talking as if he did know
Right.
who Buffalo Bill was. Like it was a.
He was playing
patient
mind games with them, which is what I like about his character a lot.
I think he did know who Buffalo Bill was. He just wasn't going to directly tell him. Because he even told Clarice, it's right here in your notes. All you have to do is read them. And then it looks like Hannibal had written some stuff in her notes and stuff. But, and that, if you've ever heard that phrase, it takes one to know one, that was basically another theme of this movie, because they used a psychologist in Hannibal to psychologically profile a psychopath who, I mean, Hannibal was technically also a psychopath. He would know the same behaviors and abilities and things like that Buffalo Bill would have known. And every single time Hannibal opened his mouth, he was basically telling them who it was by not telling them who
or
it was.
trying to direct them to think differently so that they could figure it out themselves.
He would give them a clue, but by saying something else, it would reference another thing. and then Clarice would be like, wait a minute, he's referencing this. So then go back and check your
Yeah.
notes on this stuff, and you can figure the things out.
It was just kind of fun to see that it was a whole battle of psychology, really.
Right.
Like, even Buffalo Bill was seemingly like he acted like an innocent person so that these women would help him and everything. Just like all these criminals. It reminded me a lot of Criminal Minds, which was a really good show. If you've never seen that series, go check it out. It's got a lot of stuff just like this. These weird and creepy serial killers that do weird and creepy stuff, like eating people or kidnapping people,
also,
whatever.
It also makes you think, like, there are, unfortunately, people
yeah, right.
in this
exactly.
world that are like that. And,
right.
Maybe this movie could somewhere down the line help somebody figure out something. Who knows? But by thinking differently, and maybe that's how they could end up catching somebody in real life,
And see, the best part of this was that when I was going into this, I was trying to figure out, like, if it was a metaphor, like the title of the movie, The Silence of the Lambs, like, obviously it's kind of a metaphor, but, like, going into it, I thought, are they ever going to explain? Because I often wonder, like, where the people get the titles for these movies or books or whatever. Like, where did they come up with this phrase or whatever the title is? And I was wondering what the Silence of the Lambs means and everything else. And then you get into it, and Clarice talks about how she has nightmares of these lambs screaming because when she was a child, she ran away from home and ran into a barn or something, and these sheep were all screaming because it was like a slaughterhouse where they kill the sheep and stuff. It was her family's farm. Yeah.
So then she went to live with her aunt and uncle and stuff, and they were raising sheep to slaughter, so to speak. Like,
and she could hear their screams.
And she tried to rescue them, and then when she ran away, she got taken in by the police. They took the lamb back and killed it, to make clothes or whatever.
So all this stuff, throughout her life, she always hears the sheep screaming, and then Hannibal she tells Hannibal this, and he kind of asks her, like, are the sheep still screaming? Like, is the reason for her hunting these criminals to get the sheep to stop screaming in her head, kind of, So it's like the Silence of the Lambs part. And also we got on the cover, if you've ever seen, like, the poster for it, there's also a butterfly, like, over, I assume the woman on the cover might be Clarice, or it might be the woman that got kidnapped by Buffalo Bill. Now I think about it, has a moth in it. I was wondering about what that was, what that represents too, because I've never seen the movie. And it plays a role in the movie. So I thought that was really good that they actually kind of explained both of those things that I was wondering about. But like as you go through the movie, you kind of learn, okay, well that's what the Silence of the Lambs means. I'd say my favorite scene from the movie, if I were to pick one, is probably, I mentioned it earlier, the scene where they kind of like swerve you, or with the two doors thing, or also where Hannibal escapes, because I thought it was kind of genius, like how he did it, because he was handcuffed, but then he gets out of the handcuffs and kills the two cops that are there and everything else. So it still kind of showed how he's like a mastermind. And even the ending of the movie and stuff, too, where he's like, he calls Clarice from wherever he is, and he's still out there now, so...
Yeah, and it gives you the...
It gives you you want to see the sequel now, because Hannibal Lecter is on the loose again, and we want to see what happens next.
The two sequels and the TV series.
Yeah, all that stuff. What was your favorite scene or moment from the movie?
I think, and first off, I'm going to give a 2-for-1 here, because this did win Best Picture. This will be my official... review of The Silence of the Lambs for the Best Picture thing. I do definitely think it deserved Best Picture with the way it was, because it hinted at that psychological kind of thing that also could be based off of real life, because there were people like that in this world.
It was definitely a unique movie, for sure.
But my favorite part, I think, from this is the part where they're basically just, Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins are just talking in the cell, Clarice and Hannibal, and every single thing he says means something. She just doesn't realize it yet. And I think that kind of psychological aspect to it was, and I've seen a lot of this on like TV shows. Like, I'm a huge fan of Law and Order, SVU and stuff, and they do a lot of this psychological stuff for why the killer does what he does.
Right.
And to actually see that, and I kind of got like vibes from like Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy in Venom. At the end when he's talking to him and stuff, and even into the new one, and he's trying to get him to do something. Cletus is trying to get Eddie to do something to allow him to escape, and
Right.
Hannibal is technically kind of doing the same thing by helping Clarice, so that it'll set up everything for him to. Because if he gets transferred, it'll be easier for him to escape.
Yeah, so it was
which
all
is exactly
still
what ended up happening. And I kind of got that vibe from it. And I think just the overall way that they did this whole psychological thing, and even at the end, he pops back up and you can see the look in Clarice's face when he calls her, like, oh crap, he's still here.
Yeah,
like
right.
I think she knew he escaped. I would assume she found out.
Because it kind of showed, like, he killed one of the cops. He killed, like, he took that guy's face, and then they switched clothes and everything.
I don't know
So
who all knew that he escaped or whatever, but she's like trying to figure out where he is, and she's like, Dr. Lecter, like, where are you? And he won't tell her, and then you can tell that she's worried now, and I think that just plays off of the emotional, psychological aspect of this movie.
And see, for me personally, like I said, this is more of just I think it's even billed as like a psychological thriller rather than a horror movie. But the only reason we're talking about it for like this week of Halloween related videos is just because, Hannibal Lecter's, like, the mask that they give him so he can't bite people and everything is usually like a Halloween costume. And there is some aspect of it that you could look at it as like a horror film, when Buffalo Bill stalks people in the dark with night vision and all that kind of stuff. It does
definitely fit into that category.
But it's more of like just this kind of very, like, I don't know, very intense, like,
there's no
thriller.
There's no really.
It's this very intense detective drama type of movie, So if you're a fan of those kind of things, I would recommend this, even not just as a Halloween movie, but just like in general. I think I'd go back and watch it again just to see, like, pick up on some other things or whatever Hannibal says and things like that. It's definitely worth a rewatch, I think.
I know for me, and I don't know how it is for everybody, but at least for me, it kind of made me want to go, like, look at, like, old cold cases and stuff from cops to try to figure stuff out now. It's like, I want to be there doing this kind of stuff.
It's just another one. It's just another one of those, like, really good, like, mystery things.
And it allows you to try to solve it as well. We're not given, obviously, like, the evidence or all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, like, we're also trying to figure out, like, what is Hannibal's actual agenda here? Does he know who Buffalo Bill is? And it leaves us with a bunch of questions. Like, where was he at the end when he called Clarice? How long before he comes back? Why does he come back if he comes back? Or do they find him?
Exactly.
Things, all kinds of different things like that. So I think it was a good movie.
And it left you with enough that even if they never made a sequel to it, which they did, but if they had never made a sequel to it, I feel like it's a good enough ending where you can be, like, forever wondering what happens next with Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. So I enjoyed the movie. Did you as well? Yeah. I'd give it, like, if I were to rank it, I'd say it's, like, maybe somewhere in a 4 out of 5. It's not like a perfect movie. I don't really know what qualifies as a perfect movie, honestly.
It
but
definitely deserved
it. I feel like it deserved its Oscars. Yeah, that's for sure. And I can see why it's like it's a classic. I don't know how the sequels held up, but this one, I can see why it was a classic, and I see all the hype around it now after watching it.
For Jodie Foster, because Julia,
she didn't come back again. Yeah, so. But let us know what you guys thought of The Silence of the Lambs down in the comments section. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and continue watching our channel throughout the rest of this week. We'll be doing some more Halloween-related content. So if you like those kind of things as well, then please hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.
Happy Halloween, guys.